After disguising myself as a man and ascending the throne as emperor, I declared, "The general is quite handsome, I shall gladly accept him." The top scholar loudly protested. I turned to look at him and said, "I shall gladly accept the top scholar as well." The Prime Minister died remonstrating. I smiled playfully. "I'll graciously accept you as my subject too." For a moment, all the court officials covered their buttocks, each fearing for their safety. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful stories every day. Now the story begins. 18 years disguised as a man. The bitterness during that time was beyond counting. I swore that once I ascended the throne, I would make the world know what it means for a demon child to descend upon the earth. At last, I ascended the throne. The ministers knelt before me, unaware of what future awaited them. I glanced around and declared, "The general is quite comely. We shall accept this gift with pleasure." The ministers were stunned. The general turned pale with fright, stepping forward to kowtow to me with loud thump-thump sounds. "Your Majesty, this must not be. This humble subject has a 40-year-old father above and an 18-year-old brother below. I must support my family. I beg your Majesty to spare me." I understood immediately, a seeming refusal, but in truth an invitation. I smiled playfully. "I heard your father remains charming, and your younger brother is quite the delicate beauty." The general sensed something amiss. "What? I want him to stop pretending. By saying this, isn't it just a ploy to have father and two sons all serve the emperor together? That would indeed make for a fine tale." So I replied with profound mystery, "I'll gladly accept your father too, and your younger brother as well." General, a young man dressed in crimson robes, with an elegant and graceful demeanor, stepped forward. "Your Majesty, this course of action is inappropriate. Me, and you are." Though puzzled by the question, the youth answered honestly, "Your subject is this year's top scholar." I looked at him, licked my lips, and said with satisfaction, "I'll gladly accept the top scholar as well." The top scholar. Some sharp-witted ministers had already realized what was happening and began to quietly retreat. There were also courtiers who hadn't yet caught on, attempting to turn the tide. For example, the Prime Minister. He stepped forward, risking his life to remonstrate. "Your Majesty, I implore you to rescind this decree." I looked at him and smiled playfully. "Ah, I almost forgot about you." Someone gasped in shock. "I shall gladly accept the Prime Minister's gift." The ministers turned ashen-faced. From that day onward, all the officials covered their buttocks in fear, each trembling for their own safety. I was deeply conflicted. Whose name card should I flip over tonight? The eunuch standing nearby dared not rush me, keeping his eyes downcast and mind-focused. Terrified that I might suddenly be overcome with lust and decide to take him in as well, he was worrying for nothing. I'm quite particular. After much hesitation, I finally closed my eyes and randomly picked one. It was the general. I immediately ordered them to clean the general thoroughly and bring him to me. A young girl suddenly burst in. She wept with pear blossoms glistening like raindrops, a pitiful sight of delicate beauty. "I am the childhood sweetheart of the general. Betrothed to him long ago, I vowed to stay by his side for a lifetime. How could your Majesty tear us apart?" I smirked wickedly. "Then I shall graciously accept you as well. This way, you can join him in the imperial harem." Childhood sweetheart. Me. How come there's even home delivery now? After this news spread, the entire capital was in an uproar. Now it wasn't just men who needed to protect their behinds, women did too. The imperial court had completely become my personal stage. Anyone who dares oppose me gets welcomed with open arms, straight to the executioner. The ministers seethe in silence, too afraid to speak. Even the regional magistrates bow to my will without complaint. Should any resist, I'll gladly welcome their officials too. I achieved unification in a bizarre manner. The most debauched emperor the world has ever seen. I was furious and immediately launched an investigation to find out who gave me such a treasonous nickname. Turns out it was the top scholar. He stood firm with unyielding integrity, preferring death to surrender. "You're morally bankrupt. I won't take back my words." I checked. Turns out he had no family, no vulnerabilities to exploit, unafraid of my gloating. But he forgot he himself was still in my grasp. My rage was in desperate need of release, so I indulged in him for a full month, until the once beautiful young man was left dazed and utterly exhausted. The harem members all cried out, "Beast!" I silently turned my head to look at them. The crowd immediately fell silent, afraid I might entertain them for a month too. Not a single person in the country dares to provoke me, but my reputation hasn't yet spread abroad. In the imperial court, an 80-year-old minister tremblingly stepped forward. "Your Majesty, news from the frontier, the barbarians are invading." This minister now held up half the sky of the court, Not that he was particularly capable or highly respected. Simply because he was older and wouldn't be mocked by me, the other ministers all left it to him to report the matter. After a moment's thought, I slapped the table and declared, "I shall personally lead the troops to meet these barbarians." The ministers exchanged uneasy glances. Someone whispered something into the ear of the 8-year-old minister. The 8-year-old minister stepped forward, his hand still trembling as he stroked his white beard. "Your Majesty." "What kind of meeting do you mean?" "Me, what other kind of meeting could it be?" The ministers below thought they understood my meaning. The next day, I stood before the palace gates, silently gazing at the equipment the minister had prepared for me. No iron armor, no swords, no shields. There was only one golden lacquered antique dragon bed carved from imperial-grade agarwood. I silently turned my head to look at the ministers who had come to see me off. "Is this all you've prepared for me?" The ministers exchanged panicked glances with each other. Wasn't that enough? A quick-witted minister hastily rummaged through his robes, finally pulling out something after a long while and hurriedly shoved it toward me, wearing an expression begging for praise as he did so. I lowered my head to take a look. After 3 seconds of silence, I finally couldn't take it anymore. "Get out." I threw the thing at his face for good measure. A curious minister nearby picked it up to take a look. It turned out to be a winding sheep's intestine casing. I ordered, "Take these indecent things back to..." Wait, suddenly recalling the rumors I'd heard before, I pondered thoughtfully. I heard barbarians look quite different from us, with golden hair and blue eyes. The ministers below began discussing animatedly. That's indeed the case, and I heard the enemy crown prince is exceptionally handsome. Me, move it back to my chariot, we'll set off to battle together. Arrived at the battlefield. The two armies clashed in fierce combat. I spotted the enemy crown prince not far away at first glance. He had radiant golden hair and sapphire blue eyes. She really did look stunning. He looked down at me from atop his horse. "Just a mere child." I stroked my chin and remarked, "The face is passable, but the temperament needs more tempering." The enemy prince thought he must have misheard. "What did you say?" I patiently repeated, "You're somewhat attractive, but if you want to gain favor in my harem, you'll need to improve your temperament." The enemy prince, he understood every word individually, so why couldn't he comprehend them when strung together? I seized the moment of his distraction to strike suddenly. He reacted instantly, grappling with me in a fierce struggle, but he still underestimated me. After all, I was someone who had usurped the throne at just 18. It took only a few moves to finish him off. I pinned him to the ground and looked around. The battle between the armies was nearly over, and naturally, my side had won. I kissed the enemy crown prince on the lips. "I'll gladly take you as mine." He struggled in terror. "What are you doing, my virtue, brother emperor?" He suddenly looked behind me, his eyes lighting up with joy. "My royal brother has come to save me." I turned around and planted a kiss on the terrified second prince of the enemy nation. "I'll take you too, my emperor." The enemy nation stared at me in disbelief. The second prince of the enemy nation stared at me in disbelief. The enemy army stared at me in disbelief. Our own army looked at me as if it were the most ordinary thing in the world. I gave the two brothers a suggestive smile. For a long time, no one could utter a single word. You. The second prince pointed at me with trembling fingers. Suddenly, his gaze shifted behind me, his eyes filled with terror. "Father, why are you here? Run, father, run." I turned and stared at the enemy emperor for 3 seconds, then shook my head mournfully. "This one's too ugly. I don't want it." The enemy country hadn't even reacted yet when our nation's military exploded in an uproar. This can't be real. Am I so exhausted that I'm hallucinating? Since when did His Majesty change his ways? Wasn't he always indiscriminate? I thought he'd accept anyone as long as they belonged to the human species. Me, you're the one with no standards in taste. Your whole family has no standards. To be honest, the enemy emperor's appearance is truly hard to stomach. Slit eyes, thick lips, a hulking figure, and a beard like Zhu Gonglie's. Taking him into the harem would really be doing me a disservice. After this battle, I realized that I actually have some talent for warfare, so for the next 3 months, I haunted other countries like a ghost. "I'll gladly accept your country's most beautiful woman as my prize, your second most beautiful woman. I'll take her too." By the time it was the 7th beauty's turn, something unexpected happened. When I arrived, the beauty was staring at her own hand, murmuring to herself, I've been reborn." I changed my steps mid-stride and hid behind a large tree. In my past life, I was a princess cast away, suffering humiliation, while my sister disguised herself as a man and ascended the throne, enjoying all the riches and honors. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the age of 18. In this life, I will reclaim everything that belongs to me. The beauty seems a bit off in the head. Hi, I suddenly popped out, waving at her with a smile. Are you talking about me? Worried she might not recognize who I was, I thoughtfully pointed at the dragon robe I was wearing. She looked like she was about to faint. I went up and pinched her philtrum. Little sister, what's wrong with you? The beauty squeezed out words through gritted teeth. Shut up. Don't call me little sister. I ignored her and started chanting. A little sister is always a little sister. A little sister can't become a wife. I forgot the rest. Anyway, I'll gladly accept this. She froze for 3 seconds before shrieking. Are you insane? I'm your biological sister. This is straight up incest. I wagged my finger at her. Not so fast. Have you ever wondered why? Despite our father being a total stallion with a harem of 3,000 beauties and countless affairs, there are only 2 of us as his heirs. My sister blinked dumbly. Why? Because he's completely infertile. Neither of us is actually his biological child. The eavesdroppers nearby, did we just hear some royal secrets? Are we going to be silenced? The younger sister frowned. That doesn't sound right. What's wrong with it? The problem isn't that. How dare you call him a womanizer? She looked at me with disbelief in her eyes. Even someone as far away as me has heard of your reputation. I smiled and said, all right then, he's a small-time womanizer, and I'm the big-time one. Does that satisfy you? By that logic, I'd practically be his father. Sister, 3 months later, all the world's beauties had entered my harem. They cried themselves hoarse, one after another. You're utterly devoid of conscience. I'll haunt you even as a ghost. Aren't you afraid of karma? I didn't believe it at first, but that very night, as I slept soundly, I suddenly felt something pressing down on me. I jolted awake with a start. A male ghost stood before me. His skin was deathly pale. His pitch-black eyes fixed unblinkingly on me. Spider silk-like hair coiled around my body, chilling me to the bone. Seeing I was awake, he parted his lips in a grotesque smile. Do too many bad things, and you'll get what's coming to you. The next second, I watched in horror as his neck snapped. His lower body collapsed into a pool of blood. The severed head rolled right into my arms. I casually picked up the blood-drenched head. The male ghost made too much noise, alerting the guards outside the bedchamber. What happened? Guards, eunuchs, and palace maids began approaching the room. The head stared at me blankly, finding the turn of events somewhat unexpected. His lips parted and closed. Aren't you afraid? I sighed and affectionately stroked his hair without speaking. The guards, eunuchs, and palace maids who had just entered witnessed this scene. It's you who should be afraid, silly child. After this incident spread, my already tarnished reputation became even worse. Walking down the street, I could hear passers-by whispering about it. Did you hear? That emperor won't even spare ghosts. How horrifying. He's truly a beast, even willing to lay hands on ghosts. I suspect if she ever sees a dog on the street, it won't be able to escape either. Oh my god, that makes so much sense. I better keep my dog Dahuang indoors these days. If she takes a liking to him and adds him to her harem, it'll be a disaster. That's all. Invincible under heaven. Enemies descended from the heavens. Truly, enemies from the heavens. The upper realm heard of my wicked deeds in the mortal world and couldn't stand it, so they sent a white-robed sword Immortal floating down to punish me. Sometimes I feel the people from the upper realm are particularly rigid. The harem members and ministers saw me off with tears in their eyes. After all, I'm just a mortal. No matter how powerful I am, I certainly can't defeat an immortal from the upper realm. This journey might be one of no return. Farewell. Your Majesty, may you have a smooth journey. Your Majesty, farewell. We will remember you forever. Tears welled up in my eyes, deeply moved by their loyalty and devotion. I was about to leave. Suddenly, a turn around. The group that had been weeping and wailing just moments ago instantly changed their expressions the moment I turned my back, bursting into laughter. Ha 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 ha, that damn pervert is finally gone. The one laughing the most wildly was suddenly elbowed by someone beside them. They abruptly looked up and met my eyes. Cold sweat instantly broke out on his forehead. I watched him quietly, curious to see how he would talk his way out of this. He struggled for a long moment, as if constipated, before finally squeezing out, "I know, what your humble servant means is, Your Majesty's profound blessings ensure your safe return, which is why this unworthy minister wasn't concerned about your temporary absence." I clapped my hands, thinking it was absolutely brilliant. The minister, what should I do if I feel like I won't live to see tomorrow's sun? After leaving the imperial city, I soon encountered people. The sword Immortal didn't just descend alone, he brought several sycophants along with him. They stood behind the sword Immortal, pointing and whispering about me. We know you've got some skill in mortal warfare, but don't get cocky. This time you're facing our celestial realm's sword Immortal. His blade work is truly formidable. I held back, but in the end couldn't resist, asking with a smile, which sword is the strongest, sword Immortal, other immortals? They were utterly shocked. Are all mortals like you? If that's the case, forget about saving the world, they might not be able to resist destroying it first. The sword Immortal raised his hand to stop the others, calmly looking at me. Demoness of the mortal realm, do not use your heretical teachings to bewitch others. I let out a drawn-out "oh," then asked, so, have I bewitched you yet? The sword Immortal's face flushed crimson in an instant. He snapped in embarrassment, enough nonsense. With that, he swung his sword toward me. To be honest, I wasn't afraid in my heart. After these days of observation, I realized I might have a special identity. That is, the phoenix-like, domineering protagonist of a novel, leveling up and building a harem along the way. But right now, fighting monsters above my level is just business as usual for me. Even against a sword Immortal from the upper realm, I might not lose, so I calmly raised my sword and charged forward. 2 seconds later, I was knocked to the ground. This can't be right. I couldn't help but ask, you have a system? The sword Immortal looked confused for a moment. What thing? This shouldn't be happening. I fell into deep thought. Am I not the protagonist? Normally speaking, when facing a formidable enemy, the protagonist would first be knocked down, then recall their unwavering conviction, and subsequently unleash their inner power to defeat the opponent. So what is my conviction? I pondered this carefully. Family love. My mother died early, and my father was executed by me after I usurped the throne. This won't do. Friendship. My whole life has been like walking on thin ice. No, wrong. That's not it. I grew up disguised as a man, never daring to get too close to others for fear of being discovered. So I never had any friends. This one won't do either. Then only love remains. Yes, love. My eyes lit up. This is my conviction. There are still so many people in the world waiting to be added to my harem. If I were to die, wouldn't they breathe a sigh of relief? Absolutely not. So I can't die here. At this thought, an immense power I never knew I possessed erupted from my body. I lunged forward and hooked my arm around the sword Immortal's neck. Just as he was about to counterattack, I leaned close to his ear and whispered with orchid-scented breath, "Great sword Immortal, you've devoted yourself to cultivation. Have you ever tasted the ultimate pleasures of the mortal world? Perhaps." He didn't expect me to say such words and froze in surprise. In that moment of his distraction, I swiftly placed my sword against his neck. "Why not join my harem? I'll favor you tonight." The sword Immortal stared at the blade before his throat, his pupils contracting to the size of needle points. The other immortals were completely thrown into chaos. Oh heavens, our sword Immortal has been teased. His millennia of chastity have been stolen by this enchantress. Wait. That doesn't seem to be the main point. The main point is that the sword Immortal is now being threatened by that enchantress. Her sword is still pointed at him. Oh no, what should I do now? I smiled as I looked at the radiant and noble sword Immortal. Well, if you refuse, you'll be pierced by the sword in my hand right now. If you accept, tonight you can wield that supposedly peerless sword of yours. The eavesdropping immortals nearby. What in the world did we just hear? The sword Immortal staggered slightly, his pale, snow-like face flushing with a mix of shame and indignation. Clearly, he understood. In the end, he lowered his head in humiliation. "I accept." I wagged my finger at him. "We're not done yet." "What?" With a flick of my finger, I pointed at the group of immortals behind him. These maidservants accompanying the dowry must come along too. When I brought the sword Immortal back, everyone's expressions were quite complicated. 3 parts terror, 3 parts shock, and 4 parts despair. How did this lecherous demon come back alive? This is truly the most hopeless way to die in the world. As expected, the good die young while the wicked live 1,000 years. If seeing me bring back the sword Immortal was still within their realm of acceptance, then when they saw the large group of exceptionally attractive men and women following behind, they were already numb. This lecherous demon doing such a thing was truly expected. But will the upper realm really not retaliate? Actually, it would. When the upper realm discovered that none of the dispatched individuals had returned and investigated the course of events, the Heavenly Emperor flew into a rage. How dare she? I will make that demoness pay the price. With that, he was about to dispatch the war god of the heavenly realm once more. The Heavenly Empress's eyelid twitched. She couldn't shake the feeling that something bad was about to happen. Unable to hold back, she advised, "I think it would be better if you were more cautious." But the enraged Heavenly Emperor wasn't listening at all. He immediately ordered the god of war to descend to the mortal realm. The outcome was, of course, inevitable. The handsome god of war never returned again. The heavenly emperor, unable to believe it, sent out a third group, then a fourth, until the seventh group of people disappeared. He collapsed to the ground in despair, finally realizing a cruel truth: against that female psychopath, all these men were like meat buns thrown at a dog, gone without a trace. He even considered going down there himself, but in the end, the Empress Dowager managed to dissuade him. She hesitated before speaking. "You were quite handsome in your youth. Maybe I should be the one to go." The Empress suddenly remembered that Pervert had no gender preferences. Her cerebellum instantly atrophied. Upon returning, the eunuch announced in a shrill voice, "Tonight His Majesty will favor the Sword Maiden." Everyone's faces twitched. Sword Maid, only a true genius could come up with such a name. That night, I rode in a palanquin to the Sword Immortal's bedchamber. No one was at the door. He didn't come to greet me. I didn't mind either and walked straight to the bed. There was someone under the blanket. With a wicked smile, I decided to give him a surprise and tiptoed to the bedside. With a sudden motion, I threw off the blanket. I pulled the blanket back over me. Something wasn't quite right. Why is it not the Sword Immortal under the quilt, but the top scholar? The person on the bed sat up and calmly removed the quilt covering their face. Did His Majesty not expect this? Isn't this rather unexpected? I looked at him with great confusion. Where has the Sword Immortal gone? I had a discussion with him. He refused to attend the royal bedchamber. The top scholar said with a cold expression on his handsome face, "Your Majesty, please stop bringing harm to so many innocent people. I'm willing to bear all the responsibility alone." The folds in my cerebral cortex smoothed out instantly, as if I'd reverted to a primitive state. Just then, two people suddenly darted out from under the bed. I'm willing too. I took a closer look and realized they were two brothers from the enemy state. The top scholar's face turned alternately pale and green. He retorted, "You two come from barbarian lands, whether your spies remains uncertain, yet you dare aspire to win favor." Yet the two paid him no heed. The enemy country's crown prince chuckled. What a schemer. The enemy country's second prince quickly followed up with another jab. "Green tea bitch." The top scholar, his face stiffened. I was only telling the truth. The Sword Immortal refused to come, so I had to. At that moment, a figure slowly approached from outside the door, clad in white robes, gentle as the breeze and clear as the moonlit sky. It was none other than the Sword Immortal. I regret it. He raised his eyes to look at me, his gaze tender and lingering. Top scholar, enemy prince, enemy second prince. All three men were slightly panicked. The second prince of the enemy country eagerly volunteered first. "My elder brother and I can go together. We've had exceptional since childhood and can provide your Majesty with a truly unique experience." The crown prince of the enemy nation nodded in agreement. "That's true." The top scholar pointed at them in disbelief, his voice trembling. You too, utterly shameless. The moral decline of our times. Have you no sense of decency, no self-restraint at all?" The Sword Immortal pondered for a moment before saying, "I know celestial magic and can perform tricks that mortals cannot match. In this regard, none of them can compare to me." Everyone fell silent. Even I paused for a moment. The top scholar looked absolutely livid. He lunged forward and grabbed the swordsman by the collar. Seeing this, the other two brothers were not to be outdone and rushed into the fray. The four of them tangled into a chaotic brawl. I stood there, dumbstruck by the scene. At that very moment, a young girl climbed in through the window. To my surprise, it was the general's childhood sweetheart, dressed in a white gown. She took my hand, appearing fragile and pitiful. "Sister, I'm afraid of the dark at night. Could you come to my place and keep me company?" The second prince of the enemy country was the first to realize their home had been raided. He marveled in disbelief. A true green tea has descended. The top scholar, bruised and battered from the fight, turned at his words and finally lost his temper at the sight. "Are you out of your damn mind?" Even the Sword Immortal and the enemy crown prince, for once, nodded in rare agreement. But that wasn't the end of it. Another person entered through the back door, blocked by the screen. He couldn't see inside the room, and only the top scholar could see him from within. When the top scholar saw him, an incredulous expression appeared on his face. "How did you get here?" The man snorted coldly. "Can't I come?" The voice sounded strangely familiar. Before I could recall who it was, the top scholar tried to stop him from entering and continued, "Aren't you afraid you're Ching?" As he spoke, the man had already walked around the screen and entered. Then, looking up, he met my gaze. The girl beside me. "Does Ching Mai know about this?" The top scholar finally finished his sentence. "The general, Chiang Mai, second prince of the enemy nation, shocking. A couple cheating on each other actually met in the same person's bed, others present. The general fell silent for a long moment. If I said I came to catch them in the act, would you believe me? The top scholar looked at me, then at Chiang Mai, and couldn't help asking, catch who? This is such a bizarre plot development. But there's something even more bizarre. Something terrible has happened. Someone burst in, shouting in panic, there's a thing outside the palace gates. Everyone, I couldn't help but speak up. Explain clearly, what do you mean by a thing? The person struggled to describe it for a long time, but couldn't make it clear. It's just, I can't put it into words, you'll have to see for yourselves. What kind of thing could it be, that leaves people unable to even describe it? Everyone was extremely curious and followed me to the palace gate, yet there was nothing outside, only a vast shadow, as if something was covering it. All of them looked up. It was a starship. Everyone's pupils trembled in shock. The starship descended to the ground, its hatch slowly opening. Out from within emerged let's call it a creature for now. Its skin shimmered with the cold luster of mother of pearl. Beneath elongated eyelids lay scales of deep azure, while its lower body extended into dozens of translucent tendrils. Its gaze swept across the crowd with undisguised contempt. What a primitive civilization. With that, a tentacle coiled around my neck, slowly caressing my throat. I stared at it in shock. My eyes grew wider and wider. They nearly popped out of my head. It grinned at me. What? Scared? No, I covered my face. I didn't know how to put it, because I realized, facing an alien, it seems I've awakened some kind of attribute, a bit shocking. So this is what non-humans are like. Perhaps my expression was too contorted, as the alien looked somewhat puzzled. Is there really a need to be this terrified? Everyone exchanged glances. They were quite familiar with this expression of mine. They shared a knowing look, their eyes filled with profound sympathy. Here comes another one, someone murmured. It's in for trouble, of all people to provoke. They had to pick this lecherous demon. Wait, don't you think it's bizarre, that this lecherous demon would even go for something like this? Me, I kindly reminded them. I can hear you. The group whispering among themselves nearly jumped out of their skins in fright. I couldn't be bothered with these people and turned my attention to the alien instead. I have a little suggestion for you. Oh. The alien looked at me with great interest. Being so good-looking, you shouldn't wander around the universe next time. It's dangerous. What? Before it could react, I waved my hand to the crowd behind me. Go. The crowd quickly swarmed into the starship. Meanwhile, I lunged at the alien, trying to restrain it. It let out a cold laugh and, with a mental command, made the starship fire lasers at me. I also sneered and dodged. Didn't dodge in time. The laser pierced through my arm. I grimaced in pain. The alien continued with a cold laugh. I told you, you lowly creatures. Caught off guard, I blurted out, 3 seconds. What 3 seconds? 3 seconds, that was the time limit I'd set for myself. First time strangers, second time friends. After my last fight with the sword Immortal, I've mastered compressing the entire cycle of pain, despair, reluctance, hesitation, and explosive determination into 3 seconds. Truth be told, it's like those 30-second ads. I can skip them after just 3 seconds. And now, those 3 seconds are up. I lunged at the alien. It gave a scornful smile, attempting to mentally command the starship to protect itself, only to find it completely unresponsive. What happened? Before it could react, my sword was already pointed at its head. This can't be right. It looked dazed, unable to comprehend the current situation. I don't believe it. You must have just gotten lucky. I've already sent out a distress signal. My kin will be here soon to save. Why are you all making that face? It keenly sensed that the group of lower life forms before it were making strange expressions. It seemed like it analyzed the situation, 99% sympathy and 1% pity. It didn't really understand the difference between these two emotions, but that wasn't the point. The point was, why would these lower life forms direct such emotions toward it? But it still maintained its original arrogance. Anyway, I'm from a higher civilization, piloting a starship to your technologically backward planet. How could I possibly be hijacked by lowly creatures like you? I shook my head, looking at it with a hint of pity in my eyes. Young one, you still don't understand the power of Feng Aotian. What the hell? Phoenix Proud Sky, what's this? The alien was utterly baffled. Phoenix Proud Sky is a term for a certain type of wish-fulfillment protagonist. The authors disregard all logic just to pave the way for the plot. Also, the protagonist can achieve the feat of sleeping, no, conquering the world, and standing before you now, unfortunately for you, happens to be precisely such a Phoenix Proud Sky. The alien slowly typed out a question mark. To put it simply, this is my turf. No matter what starships, immortal techniques, or supernatural powers you have, they're all useless here. Before the alien could speak, someone in the crowd couldn't hold back anymore. When did she develop another Chinibya phase? Sure, you still dare to gossip about her. Don't you want your chastity anymore? I couldn't help but reflect on myself. What exactly made me leave such an impression on them? After 3 seconds of reflection, I gave up. Rather than exhausting myself with overthinking, it's better to blame others, I declared righteously. What are you looking at others for? Yes, you. The one who just called me Chinibya. Go back, wash up, and roll into the harem. The man looked as if the sky had fallen. I turned back around. The alien was still perplexed. You mean to say this world is actually a novel? Yes, it held back again and again, but still couldn't resist. Don't you think this plot is bizarre? I really want to advise this author to quit the circle. It feels like it was written by AI. I shook my head. Not that logical. The alien. It puffed out its chest, if it even had one. Whatever, the victors become kings and the losers bandits. I won't say more. Do what you will, kill me or slice me. I'm at your mercy. I raised an eyebrow. Your earth language is quite good. You even know how to use idioms. A proud gleam flickered in its eyes. Of course. I'm a higher life form, a mere language. I analyzed it completely in just 0.00001 seconds. I nodded. Impressive. You're both good-looking and smart. I'll gladly take you in. I just arrived on Earth and might not fully understand your planet's language system. What does laughingly accept mean? I smiled. Stop pretending. At that very moment, several starships suddenly appeared in the sky. Only then did everyone remember this alien had seemingly sent out a distress signal just moments ago. The alien also recalled it instantly, eyes widening in horror. Don't turn back. This isn't home. But it was already too late. I've captured all the aliens from several starships. I'm in an excellent mood. Just as I was about to leave, I suddenly realized something and turned to look at the alien. The alien was so unnerved by my stare, if it even had goosebumps, that it asked, "Why are you looking at me like that?" I forced out a dry laugh. This is actually kind of embarrassing to talk about. Its expression turned to one of utter disbelief. There's actually something in this world that you'd find embarrassing to mention. That's some filthy language, actually. What I wanted to ask was, shouldn't a starship this big have an AI system? I tried to say it as quietly as possible, but everyone around us still heard it. They all gasped in shock. Holy shit, is it what I'm thinking? People shouldn't, at the very least, at this moment. The alien still hasn't realized the severity of the situation. It answered very naturally. Yes, there is. I hesitated for a moment. Actually, there's something I've never told you. What? Actually, I'm a mechanosexual. The alien's mind went blank for a moment. Is this even human language? It struggled to say, trying to make my words more comprehensible. I forced a laugh. Of course, after accepting the AI from the starship, I asked the alien which planet it came from. It said Octopus Star. I silently watched its tentacles. This naming convention is way too simplistic and crude. 3 seconds later, I asked, is there a mermaid star then? There is, the alien replied, then asked warily, what are you planning? So I said with profound mystery, I've graciously accepted your father, and I've graciously accepted your brother too. Additional viewing, yes, Fox Star, yes, Snake Star, Elf Star, Dragon Star, Demon Star. The alien couldn't take it anymore. What on earth do you want? I hesitated for a moment before saying, actually, there's one more secret I need to tell you. Actually, I'm not just into machines, I have a thing for non-humans too. The alien stared at me in disbelief, sucking in a sharp breath. You don't mean, I shyly admitted, that's right, I want to conquer those planets and claim them all as my own. The alien was nearly suffocating from shock at this moment. He wished he could travel back in time just one day to slap some sense into his past self who'd decided to visit Earth. Oh my god, is there anyone normal left here? And I'm still wondering how many planets there are in the universe. 1, 2, 3, 4, I let out a sigh. It seems I still have quite a way to go before I can laughingly claim the whole world as mine. Keep it up.